to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd also like to remind everyone that while each person has a maximum of 3 minutes, if you don't use the entire 3 minutes, we'll be able to hear from more people. Ragini has a second timer and she's keeping track of the total time spent on this topic as well. Please know that your comments are important to us. Because this is an item that's not on our agenda, we cannot enter into any discussion on this topic at this time, nor can any decisions be made tonight. And I want to thank you in advance for your cooperation and compliance with these guidelines. Additionally, as I said a moment ago, we value feedback from stakeholders and try to engage everyone in our learning community. I want to acknowledge that in the past couple of weeks, many of you have written to individual board members to express your opinion about this topic. The district has assured us that Stu Dugan, our director of student support and school safety, has responded to every person who has done so. I have also personally met with some people who requested that I attend a meeting with them and Mr. Dugan. We appreciate how respectfully many of you have communicated your questions and concerns on this topic, and I hope you feel that the district has responded to you in the same manner. And please know that we will continue to do so. So with that, I'm going to start with the first speaker. Renee Montez. Here?
Yes, I am. Are we starting with questions already?
It's your 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm concerned about the age that this new education is being started. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, it states that around 8.5 years of age is when gender of choice is made, and usually around 8 or 9 years old, that's when abstract thinking is developing. And as a parent of 2 girls, I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 9-year-old, her abstract thinking has not developed yet, and I feel that this is just going to go over her head and be more overwhelming to where she's at. And then also, since the abstract thinking is developed around 8 or 9 years old, why is it starting so young in kindergarten where you're 5 or 6-year-olds? So I'm concerned and asking why so young, so soon.
The next public speaker is Chad Pettit.
The kindergarten program is wonderful. It's everyone. The first grade program, when we're talking about boy or girl, whoever feels like they're the red crayon that draws blue, or in second grade, the bird that doesn't feel like the other two, or even in third grade, boy who likes sparkles, wears a skirt, a boy with long hair, a girl with short hair, any kid who feels like they're different, what's the response? What we're teaching our children is tremendous. And I think as a community, I think that we can do that. What I think creates the conflict here is when we start in first grade teaching terminology for gender identity, binary, non-binary, and gender spectrum. Our kids are too young. They're too young, and as parents, we have legitimate concerns about their safety in the long term, in terms of forcing them to develop in ways that they wouldn't even normally develop, and face issues that they don't need to face at this stage of their lives. It's just too early and too much. And so we're asking you, as the board, to make this decision. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Adrian Brody.
Right here. I wrote down what my thoughts were, so I'm just going to read it from my phone. So my question is, what does knowledge of the different sexual preference have to do with how we will contribute to society? Now, just to give you a background on my family, we are Christian and we are Black. So discrimination is not new to me, but it has made me the person I am today. Over 50 years ago, MLK delivered a speech on equality, yet racial equality is still the #1 issue in America. Blacks have to be extra careful just to simply walk around hoping and praying that no one calls the cops just because we look suspicious. Please don't get this twisted. This discrimination is not the same as gender identity, and this is not the civil rights movement all over again. For Blacks, it will always be a challenge because of our skin. That's our reality. I cannot cover my skin to be seen as another race. I don't have the option to do that. Gender identity, well, that's a feeling no one can see. My point is, that is life, and we still teach our kids to have compassion, show kindness, and love toward everyone regardless of how they are treated. This is taught at home, and the example is set by the parents. It's not the school's responsibility to raise our children. I remember growing up and wearing baggy clothes and loving short hair and climbing the trees. Thank God no one ever planted in my mind that since I did those things, I may be a boy or identify more like a boy. Gender identity wasn't even a thought for me as a kid. And you know why? Because I was too busy being a kid. Let's let these kids be kids. These are not things that they should be worried about. If I wanted to change how I felt at that age, I would probably right now be a butterfly. I am grateful to have parents who guided me with a strong foundation and did not put the pressure on me to make hard decisions. No child is in a position to do that. The biggest compliment for me as a parent of 3 kids in Oak Park is to hear that from the parents and teachers that my children are well behaved and have manners. According to the Bible, God created man and woman to reproduce. That is my belief, and that is my constitutional right as a Christian. And we all have our own rights. Gender identity is teaching our kids that their parents have lied to them. When as parents, we have lost the right to raise our children, and we have lost the right to morals and values if you take that away from us. Gender identity curriculum is now forcing its belief on others. If we have that right, I'd like to suggest that we add Jesus Christ to the list. I wouldn't force that on anyone, nor would Jesus want that to be forced on others. My point is, if you want to make a huge impact, teach children kindness, acceptance of any race, creed, and culture across the board. That will prepare them for this world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carlos Velasco.
I wasn't ready to serve. I obviously am not white. My background, my family's from Mexico, where we have very strict cultural identities on what the man does and what the woman does in our culture. My son Max has long hair. For the better part of a year, he's been teased at Brookside Elementary for having long hair, saying he looks like a girl, saying that he is a girl. To this day, it has not been addressed. What's gonna happen when you say having long hair possibly is you identifying as a girl? I have my kid, when I go to jujitsu and I want to pull his hair up high, like our ancestors did, our Native American ancestors, and he doesn't want to, and he's crying, saying, I feel like a girl, because he's teased. What are you going to do to reconcile that if you're teaching this? We speak Spanish. We use masculine and feminine in our language. What are you going to do to reconcile that? When I teach my kids and continue to teach them Spanish, and they say, well, that's not the correct term, Dad. How are you going to help me? How does that make my life easier as a parent? I've been bullied for being short, for wearing glasses, for my ethnicity, for being my color, and for wearing clothes from the thrift store because I was poor. I know what it is to be bullied, to be called a wetback, a beaner, to have to hide to eat my lunch because I didn't have a PB&J, I had a taco. This does not teach tolerance. It does not teach diversity. It's an agenda. And I don't prescribe to it. My culture doesn't prescribe to it. My Jewish white wife doesn't prescribe to it. And I have a gay sister, and I have 2 black cousins. And you know what? When we all meet, I don't say, that's Black Aloquise, your aunt. This is your gay tia. It's just, this is your tia, this is your cousin, this is your other tia, and we're all a family. When I was in the Marine Corps, we all only had one color, green. Everybody was a shade of green. Light green, dark green, whatever it may be. We were all one damn color. When we got killed, they didn't kill us because I was Mexican or because he was white or he was a different gender. It's because we were Americans, and we need to teach that unity, that we're Americans, that we're all the same. Every time you divide us, you make us weaker as individuals. That's all I gotta say.
Next speaker is Gretchen Van Houten.
Hi. Wrote it down, so I'll read it. Love thy neighbor. I'm pretty sure when God said that, God knew our neighbor would be different than us. No matter how you believe, those words make a lot of sense. That's what I teach. I teach my children acceptance. And I'm so happy to be at a school where they want to teach that. We need acceptance for a lot of kids. I've seen kids get picked on for many reasons, whether it's special needs or they don't run fast enough. I'm excited for acceptance and kindness, and that needs to be taught. They must have that. That is a fantastic curriculum. I applaud you for that. Where I'm cautious is teaching our younger kids sexual terms and identification. My fear is you're giving these young children a whole new vocabulary to stereotype kids, bully them, make fun of them, hurt them. They're not mature enough to understand. My 15-year-old daughter, yes, she can handle that, but not my 5-year-old or my 11-year-old. And I know this because I am speaking from an experience. It happened to my son. Because of the events that transpired last year, all my son cares about now, today, is finding a girlfriend, looking like a boy. That's not fair. If he's gay, if he's straight, if he's transgender, if he's transsexual, I welcome that. I love him. Don't young children have enough to stress about? Now you want to add more? My son is a boy. He actually identifies as a boy, but he chooses to hang out with girls, only girls. All of his qualities are feminine. His friends are girls. That's it. Because of the incident last year and the new vocabulary being taught to younger kids, we found out he was being targeted. He cried and begged me to pick him up, and he couldn't do it any longer. A group of boys had been calling him a tranny. They were teasing him that he was gay. And when he said he wasn't, Well, since he's a boy and only hangs out with girls and wears pink a lot, that makes him a tranny. My favorite, when he denied that and said no, he liked girls, they said, oh, you're a transgender lesbian. What do you think the book Sparkle Boy is gonna do, or House for Everyone? What happens to him and the kids that are like him? My children come from a family that supports the LGBTQ community. We are a family with homosexual members. My children grew up hand in hand going to pride parades in every single event. And now my son is upset knowing the targeting and bullying might start again because of this new curriculum. Take a moment to think about that before you high five and holler, we won, after a meeting. Young eyes might just be watching you. This is not a competition. This is about navigating the waters and finding the best way to teach our children. The fight to be progressive shouldn't be so important that we are overruling everything. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing. Acceptance and kindness might just need to be a class for all of us. Let's start there. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Youngley.
I also wrote mine down. Oak Park has a strong foundation of implementing research-driven curricula backed by parent approval. The Reader's Workshop program is a great example of this. Parents were given quantitative evidence, and Opusd offers multiple parent education forums on it. This gender diversity program was proposed in April without cited research, only stating that other communities had implemented a similar program, but without supporting data or any description of how Opusd will measure success of this program. Opusd was not forthcoming in informing parents about this proposed curriculum change. This has created an environment of heightened controversy and distrust of the intentions behind this program. I have two main concerns. Number one, I perceive that the program is pushing gender-neutral concepts on everyone. And second, K-5 children are insufficiently developed to comprehend the complexity of gender identity issues. So first of all, regarding gender-neutral concepts in the classroom, I readily agree that the school should aim to make accommodations for students who identify as genderless. However, that does not mean we need to make everyone and every text use genderless language. Our world, whether we like it or not, is full of binary, right and left, alive and dead, yes and no, male and female. Children need to learn how to live in a predominantly binary world. Regarding K-5 psychological development, I personally am worried that this program will present gender identity issues too simply, as if gender is just a choice for an individual to make, leaving family and cultural influences out, and making it seem easy to change your gender identity without ramifications. All of my personal research into this subject has only led me to realize how complex and critical gender identity can be. I am concerned that elementary students lack maturity to handle this topic well in a classroom setting. Here I do need to defer to our wonderful teachers and staff at Opusd to emphasize creating an environment that allows space for diverse thinking without pressuring children to make a personal declaration about their own gender. If a child needs to process any questions of self-identity, we should make accommodations for counseling so the child may self-explore safely and privately. My proposed solution is to implement an all-inclusive diversity training program rather than one focused on gender identity alone. It is important to educate on gender diversity, but it is equally important to welcome immigrant families and integrate cultural groups. The proposed books can be used as a springboard for discussions on accepting all individuals without placing such a heavy emphasis on LGBTQ+ issues. I value the amazing education my children are receiving here in Oak Park, and I have 4 of them. I applaud that at Opusd, character counts, bucket fillers are rewarded, and we have a growth mindset. I appreciate our diverse community and want my children to be exposed to different opinions, cultures, and lifestyles, but I support a comprehensive diversity program at Oak Park Elementary School.
Thank you. The next speaker is Romina Weinberg.
Hi. Really tough to follow all of these very impassioned speakers, so I'm going to try it out. So my husband and I moved here in 2004 because we're from Missouri and Georgia, so a lot of green space. So we just happen to like the community. And then we come to realize that the education here is a treasure. We were happy when we have been giving opportunity for our kids to go here. So like the others here, I can voice my concerns over gender diversity training, and everybody here has given some great reasons, a lot of passionate reasons, giving great examples. I'm just going to give one simple one, and I hope you can all sympathize with it. So I had a 5th grader last year, and he watched the infamous Parts and Pieces video, where the girls watched the one video about their parts and pieces of the boys, and he's now in 6th grade, and even despite having watched those films, he still doesn't quite understand how it all fits together. But he's in 6th grade now. So I just came to simply say that I have a 3rd grader, and although usually the little brother is a little more savvy than the older brother, I think that it is, like everybody else has said, I think it's too soon to reject this programming for them because they just don't have the comprehension, and it leads to confusion afterward. So, and I also believe, as presented by the other impassioned speakers, that kindness is really should be the focus and a focus on diversity. And I think that that's probably, the preferred way to go. So, thank you.
The next speaker is Hiram. Is it a W. Rama?
Yes. Hi, good evening. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I am a psychiatrist, board certified in psychiatry, addiction medicine, and forensic psychiatry. I have been practicing psychiatry for more than 35 years, both adult and high-risk children and adolescents. I am also a grandfather of an elementary school child, which is the reason why I chose to speak tonight. Having worked with children with gender dysphoria, it is imperative to understand the diagnosis is complicated with many underlying factors and other coexisting conditions. This diagnosis is generally made by a psychiatrist, not a counselor or a social worker. I have reviewed the curriculum as well as the books, which are being implemented here shortly. This is not age appropriate for developmental norms in this age group. The children must develop self-identity, self-respect, moral and social norms, and also family values prior to this type of material being introduced. The children must reach emotional and cognitive maturity before they can participate in this type of discussion. This material will probably perpetuate bullying by labeling these children as well as children who may not have gender dysphoria but do not follow gender norms. Introducing this type of material can cause significant harm, such as increased confusion of self-identity, anxiety, and depression in both gender dysphoric and all other children. The majority of the children with gender dysphoria will return to their birth gender if allowed to go through puberty. Let our children be children. As a physician, our first priority is do no harm. As educator, that should be your priority also. Thank you.
Choice parent. I chose this district because my husband had put in 18 years coaching children of Oak Park, getting them scholarships to universities, athletic scholarships. I always felt that Oak Park was held to a higher standard, whether it be leadership, academics, or athletics. The sense of community is undeniable, and even though I don't live here, I've always been made to feel that I'm a part of the community. My daughters attend Brookside Elementary and have for 5 years. I have one daughter in 2nd and the other in 4th. And I know they only have a few more years before they approach middle school. One of the things that I noticed and learned very early on as a very brand new parent coming into kindergarten is that there were 3 children that were in our kindergarten class that were on the autism spectrum. It was interesting to me that none of the children noticed or seemed to care, but accepted the kids and their learning styles. And the theory was, if they were integrated with typical children, that they would all achieve more. How fascinating it was to me to see this firsthand. I did not attempt to explain to my children what autism was, but I told them that we all learn differently, and sometimes Some students have a little bit more difficult time, and they have a special teacher that helps them. And that's all I needed to say, and they understood. I have put a lot of effort into researching and reading the gender identity curriculum, corresponding books, and lesson plans that were accepted the end of last year and to be implemented this year. I actually submitted a formal request that my children be allowed to opt out. First and foremost, I feel that children of this age are too young. It has been scientifically proven that that part of the brain would not even understand the concept. Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development states that this learning curve doesn't happen until age 13 in a developing human. He refers to it as the crisis of identity versus identity confusion. And it's when a young adolescent finds a balance becoming a unique individual identity while being accepted and fitting in. Just as we would not expect our children to understand concepts as the autism spectrum, and let's just ask them what Tourette's is, why would we expect them to understand a confusing gender identity curriculum? The new curriculum discriminates against family values and religious convictions, mine in particular. According to the EDC Code 51500 and EDC Code 51501, a teacher or a state board or a governing board shall not adopt any textbooks or instructional materials and should not sponsor any activity that promotes a discriminatory bias of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, disability, nationality, sexual orientation. Since this is discriminatory to my personal convictions, I have asked that the board, the principal, the school psychologist, superintendent allow us to opt out of the curriculum. I feel that our district has made huge strides in an anti-bullying campaign and empathy training. We have taught our children to be kind and choose to be bucket fillers. Every student should feel safe and accepted. This can be achieved on a very basic diversity tolerance platform, protecting children that have different belief systems, ethnicities, learning disabilities, socioeconomic statuses, and family lives. Thank you.
The next speaker is Richard
Valley. Good evening, my name is Richard Valley. I'm here tonight to make a public comment on record that I'm opposed to any type of curriculum introducing gender diversity concepts to our children. I understand and do not dispute the fact that bullying is a real problem, and as a responsible community, it must urgently be addressed. I object to teaching gender diversity based on the fact that it is in direct conflict with my religious beliefs of myself and many others in our community. The Old Testament of the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27, teaches, so God created man in his own image. He created him man and female. Teaching gender diversity will create a new discrepancy based on our religion, as my children will at best be confused by the conflicting teachings at home and in school. At worst, be called named like bigot or homophobe. According to California Education Code 51500, copy. Teacher just, I would like to remind you and state the obvious, as representatives for the district, and our teachers, it is illegal for you to implement a gender diversity curriculum. We should instead work on a curriculum based addressing bullying at all levels at any time for any reason. Teach self-confidence, peer acceptance, etc., and things of that nature. Thank you so very much.
Why gender diversity lessons should be pulled out of the character counts curriculum as part of the district's anti-bullying initiatives. I'm an Oak Park resident and mother of two beautiful daughters. Both have attended Oak Hills Elementary. In 4th grade, my oldest daughter struggled with being bullied, and I watched her confidence diminish over the course of the school year. I made the decision to pull her out of public school, and she started attending a private school in 5th grade. Now as 6th grader, she's thriving, and my decision to move her was the best decision for her. My youngest is a 3rd grader at Oak Hills, and right now she loves school, she loves her teacher, and she is doing well. I do believe an anti-bullying program needs to be implemented in the Oak Park School District, and up until now, I have appreciated the character counts curriculum as an anti-bullying initiative. I'm also a middle school teacher, and I have worked at 7 different middle schools in both Oxnard School District and LA Unified School District for 18 years. I have sat with students that have cried in my arms. I have waited with students as they hid until it's safe to come out. And unfortunately, I have had students who have committed suicide, all because of bullying. I have worked with parents, teachers, and administrators to protect students every way I know how. I have received extensive training in Safe School Ambassadors Program and the Obeas Anti-Bullying Program. I worked side by side with counselors where we trained administrators, teachers, school staff, and students to stop bullying behaviors. I've seen bullying behavior diminish and school culture change on campuses with the right tools and programs that have data and specific research that shows success. The gender diversity lessons have no specific data to support its efforts. One thing I have learned as an educator and anti-bullying program trainer is that if you want a successful anti-bullying program, you work with the parents in the community to improve anti-bullying efforts. You use parent and community feedback to move forward, and you partner with us. You partner with the community. Together you pool resources and implement anti-bullying curriculum that works for everyone. You don't shut out the community members to information meetings that are heavily moderated. You don't provide a parent meeting that doesn't allow for parent comments. You don't have a school board vote on such a sensitive topic without gathering parent and community feedback first. And ultimately, you don't bully parents in the community into an anti-bullying initiative. No parent wants his or her child to become a target of bullying. So please work with all of us and take the gender diversity lessons out. Focus on supporting all students and families in your anti-bullying efforts.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Ross.
I'd like to begin with a little bit of family history. My daughter, Heather, attended Oak Park Unified School District K-12. As a senior, we were afraid she was not going to graduate as she was failing in class. She pulled it through and apparently matured. She got a bachelor's degree at Cal State Northridge in journalism, fell in love with a Canadian and moved to Canada, where she attended the University of Toronto and got a bachelor's degree in education. Imagine, a girl who wasn't going to graduate high school is now an educator. And she followed her love to the city of Saskatoon, which is the largest city in the province of Saskatchewan, where she attended the University of Saskatchewan and got a master's degree in education. A few years ago, she was a presenter in a workshop at an international educators conference in Anaheim on open textbooks. Early this year, she was the keynote speaker at an international conference of college educators on open textbooks in Vancouver, British Columbia, which led to invitations to speak at universities in Anchorage, Alaska, Juneau, Alaska, and in New Mexico. Heather's gay. Her love is a doctor, a woman in Canada. She didn't tell us she was gay until 5 days before she left for Canada. She was afraid to tell us because she had friends who were gay who became instantly homeless when they told their parents. This has got to stop. No child is too young to be taught tolerance. No child is too young to be taught acceptance. And the only way we can teach them that is to expose them to the people that they should be tolerant of, that they should accept. No child is too young to learn that there are people who are different. I'm very upset with those who would use their religion, which is contrary to mine. My religion accepts gay people. I am Jewish. I belong to a temple. We had a gay cantor in our temple. Our rabbi has performed same-gender marriages. And I object to anyone taking my school district and saying it should only be a Christian school district. Because
No one said
Christian
that.
religion.
No one said that.
Christian religion.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna challenge you. How do you pick and choose what you're gonna expose them to?
Right now, this is not a public meeting, it's a
Just
meeting of
shut
the
up.
board being held in
And
public.
my time is
His
up.
time is up.
And I
Thank you. Thank you. Our last speaker on this topic is Chris Ruan.
Thank you, the board. Thank you, everyone. So, yeah, I echo a lot of the opinions by most of the parents that, gender identity or diversity education is too young for elementary school kids. As a parent of two, my daughter is in 7th grade and my son is in 5th grade. So my personal experience is that at a certain age, it is time for them to receive this, acceptance or, like tolerance of, different genders other than male and female, like LGBTQ, but for my son, which is 5th grader, when I try to bring that topic up to him to try to see, because I know that there's going to be like this course or this agenda scheduled at school, and I try to bring up to him, and I didn't get, all I got is confusion, and so I feel like this is not a good time for gender identity education in elementary school. And another thing I wanted to say is that I heard a lot of the educators or people that support this view or support early gender identity education is that it's okay to be falling into one of the groups, or it's okay to be gay, or it's okay to be like, it's okay. What I want to say is, when we educate our kids, can we say that it's okay to be born as gay? It's okay to be born as lesbian or as one of the groups. Otherwise, they will feel like, oh, it's okay for me to become one of those. It's okay for me to become fluid. That's going to create more chaos. Thank you.